What is this thing called regionalization? In the old days, you all demanded it. Hasn't been much of a conversation lately. We'll talk about it.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
You know, I talked to you about this mezzanine level of government that has really kind of popped up and established itself here in Rhode Island. It's really mayors and town administrators and all of that. And our lieutenant governor, who is a former mayor of Cumberland, my hometown, is kind of the, I don't know, ad hoc quasi-captain of that ship. And last week, he was at the State House talking about regionalization plans again. Back in the old days on the radio show, I'd say regionalization, you couldn't buy a phone line because everybody wanted to consolidate everything into one fell swoop. 39 cities and towns, 36 school districts, we can do, and now everybody kind of goes, blah, 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 and I don't know why. Maybe the lieutenant governor will know why. He is visiting us and will join us momentarily. Thanks for joining me on my State of Mind. It is a pleasure to have you aboard on this drop-dead gorgeous Thursday spring day. It has sprung. Let's go to the rundown and just check on a couple of things that are going on. That's the headline, and I couldn't think of anything better to write. Providence Journal shows this today. Mr. Kevin Jackson is in a little bit of a jam. He is the majority leader of the Providence City Council and the longest serving councilor since 1994. Here's the ugly story.
From the council chambers to a courtroom in cuffs, Majority Leader Kevin Jackson is accused of embezzling more than $127,000 from a youth sports league he founded in the 70s, the Providence Cobras, which receives taxpayer dollars. Court documents say he used money from the Cobras account to purchase this campaign ad in Eastside Monthly, plus apparel purchases at outlet malls, car repairs, and monthly Netflix charges.
And he's basically the only person that has access to the money. He is the only person on the account that has a debit card.
Police say they discovered the alleged embezzlement from the Cobras while they were looking into Jackson's campaign finances. Police say he lied on his campaign finance reports to the state of Rhode Island and spent $12,000 in campaign donations on personal expenses. Jackson's attorney disputes the charges.
He's a selfless public official and community activist who has always put the needs and concerns of his constituents and his athletes before his own.
Providence City Council President Luis Aponte sent us a statement that said, in part, "I am surprised and saddened to learn of Councilman Jackson's arrest. I will reserve judgment while the process continues."
Yeah, well, I'm surprised and saddened that Luis Aponte is still carrying a $47,000 bill to the Board of Elections for late filing and messed up campaign reports. You want to talk about frickin' frack? Holy cow, I'm saddened. Oh, you know, sell it to the Air Force, will you, Luis? My goodness. I mean, no, we're all broken-hearted over bad behavior. It makes our heart swell with pain. It's just such hooey. Get the heck out of the job while you're under this kind of suspicion. But here's the press release today. Half a loaf is better than a full loaf, I guess, for the city council. He's leaving his majority position, but he'll remain as an active councilor. As if anybody knows the difference. You know, everybody's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. This case is demonstrative, disgusting, and what you do if you're a responsible public official when you're under this kind of stress, you tell the people that you represent that you're in no position to well represent them, so you're going to take a break. The learning disability for what is right and wrong in this state is unbelievable. All right. Learning disabilities are nothing to laugh at, and I shouldn't overuse the phrase, right? But the governor's got one. Someone in her place better explain to her that her poll numbers are not very good. I know firsthand that she told a pretty big player in this state only a couple of weeks ago that her favorability ratings are wonderful. Blissful ignorance is no way to run a government. Here's the headline. Disapproval of Raimondo job performance jumps. The Morning Consult is a national polling organization, and they rank the governors from all across the country. The governor now sits as the 8th worst in terms of favorability. In other words, she in 1 year's time has gained 14 points in unfavorable numbers. 14 points. Gee, you think bad rollouts on roadworks programs and all sorts of other national attention versus local focus problems have finally begun to resonate here She has such an opportunity over the next couple of weeks to demand a line item veto, to demand the end of the grant program, to get back into a good government role, to go block and tackle like the governor of the state as opposed to somebody who wants to work in Washington for Hillary Clinton. You know what? You're never going to get there unless you do the job that you've been elected to do. And the governor better get going. The numbers speak for themselves. Next, just a little ditty here. Some of our production for this story was a little late in coming out of Washington, and I apologize for that, but I will tell you that here's a headline. Well, the AP says they met, and it's also an indication that they had a productive meeting, according to this particular headline. I guess we got another. But there's no marriage made in heaven here. Speaker Ryan has not endorsed Donald Trump, although he is suggesting that it's good to start to work together and try to unify the party. In the meantime, Trump keeps whacking Elizabeth Warren, who I guess he's worrying is going to be the vice presidential choice. Well, just wait a little bit ahead of it. There she is. He calls her goofy Elizabeth Warren. Yeah, by the way, she knows how to fight back. Check her Twitter account. She's kind of crazy with it. The two of them are in a Twitter battle. And of course, Hillary and Donald are going to have the knockdown, drag-out election of the century, right? They might even discuss an issue in September or October, but don't bet on it. Yes, this thing called regionalization. Show me a headline there, Jess, that applies to this conversation, and we'll chat about it with the guy who's at the top of there. Lieutenant Governor Dan McKee is in the house. Welcome aboard.
Thanks, Dan.
How are you?
It's a beautiful day, like you said.
It's a beautiful day. We're taping a little earlier these days since our move to radio on drive time at 3 to 6 on WPRO, so you'll hear a lot of daytime reflections as we go. You get what I'm saying when it comes to this regionalization thing? I could fill phone lines up on a talk show in 10 seconds 10 years ago when I'd say, hey, should we consolidate? Should we regionalize? And yeah. But if I asked the question today, I'm not so sure that would happen. You sense a little bit of a pull away from the conversation?
Not on the taxpayers' behalf, but I think that in a lot of ways.
Well, who do you think listens to my radio show?
You'll get responses about that, and I know that you opened it up, but I think that, quite frankly, I think that we've been trumped by Trump. We've been trumped by Trump's behavior. The state's had some pretty poor behavior over the last few weeks, and I think that
I want to get your reflection on that later.
Certainly, Trump is trumping us in a lot of good policy strategies, but that doesn't mean that we're going to give that up. We're going to keep on moving ahead.
And your answers are probably pretty good. Unfortunately, you have no microphone on. And that happens sometimes when we do this show. So when we come back, you will have a microphone on and we'll be able to hear you even clearer. We heard what you said.
Well, did I hear you? Well, turn my volume up.
Well, we'll turn you up.
I'll speak louder.
We'll get you turned up. Don't worry about it. We'll
right.
turn them up when we come back. Stay with us. So to kind of set the foundation for what this regionalization conversation is all about, let's roll this story.
When you're in trouble or see something or someone in need, you call 911 and connect with a dispatch operator. There's a lot of them in Rhode Island, sometimes multiple dispatch centers in even one city or town.
There is no good reason why we should not be regionalizing.
Lieutenant Governor Dan McKee spoke to reporters with legislators and reps from 9+ municipalities in Rhode Island calling for change.
We need to find ways to assist the municipalities to show them paths that really make sense.
7 municipalities would like to condense and consolidate all of their 911 calls to one dispatch center. It would save money and they say not affect safety at all, but they would need a bill to pass the legislature first.
Of course, this is a cost-saving bill that will save the cities and towns combined over the years millions and millions of dollars.
It's more the job protection.
Paul Valletta, a state fire union official, says they're currently against the bill because consolidating, he believes, will lead to layoffs.
And they'll tell you no one's losing their jobs now. But that's the way consolidation works. That's how you save money. You have to get rid of personnel.
Let's just get moving and get this done so we're not back here next year talking about the same thing.
Ooh, Joe Policina, the Mayor of Johnston.
Got a reaction from me.
Little edgy.
Yes.
A little touchy.
He wants to see this happen now.
Yeah.
We all do. All the municipal leaders, including myself.
Lieutenant Governor Dan McKee back and mic'd up. Mr. Valletta, the Cranston Firefighter Union president, who is like a watchdog of anything that might impact public labor at the State House, was there to watch you, I'm sure. Got to give him credit. He's candid. He just wants to protect jobs.
And I think he described the conflict here very well. It's either create, have jobs, too many jobs than you need to provide good service at the taxpayers' cost, or actually represent the taxpayers to create savings so that we can live in the communities that we enjoy living in. And that's really the bottom line, and that's the conflict at the State House right now, is that in order to get something like this passed, Paul's voice is stronger than the taxpayer's voice. And so what we need to do is keep on working very hard to deliver the message that we need to put the taxpayers first, we need to put our municipalities first. And when 15 communities show up at a press conference, with representing over 500,000 people in the state of Rhode Island, Dan, I think the General Assembly will respond in the long run. They'll make these things happen.
So is he correct that en route to a full regionalization strategy, which I'm not sure what it is, we'll get to that, that it is a job savings plan?
Over time, but the municipal leaders and the legislation says that the people who are currently working in positions today are not going to be opted out of those positions, and that the savings or the cost containment over periods of time through attrition as the staffs, as you roll down to a set staff that makes sense. But that's what the job of the mayors and the municipal leaders is to find ways to create the most efficient, the safest and most efficient operations in their communities, and that's what we're working on.
So specifically, what do you want to do with what this seems almost to be an incubator or a test case for regionalization, correct?
Yes.
I mean, you got to walk before you run.
Yeah,
actually, you might have to crawl before you walk. Is this the crawl that you're talking about here?
Well, I think that initially it's for the regional public safety dispatching, as the clip just showed. But this is what's good about this is that the legislation that we did put forward, that Senator De Palma has sponsored. We're still waiting on sponsorship on the House side, but that is modeled after what has happened in Massachusetts. What happened in Massachusetts? Watch out for that fly.
That was just a fly, not a neurological reaction. Okay.
So it's modeled after what's happened in Massachusetts, and it's been successful in Massachusetts. We're down the Cape. We visited, Charlie Lombardi and I, and Joe Palacina, Joe Almond. We've all made visits down there to take a look at them. It started with 3 communities on the Cape Cod. It went to 7 communities. It went to 13 communities. As you add more and more communities, the amount of coverage and personnel is going to reduce, and the professionalism that's going to be there is going to be actually better trained. So it's a win for the taxpayers, and I think it's a win for the labor as well, because if communities continue to have problems and they're weak financially, then we've saw what happened in Central Falls. We're seeing what's happening in Providence. The people who are retired, their pensions are not totally protected if in fact communities become insolvent. And the more solvent they become, the more protected their benefits are. So I think it's a win for everybody, and I think shortly people are going to realize that, as they did in Massachusetts.
Okay, I want to talk about that thought in a second,
Yep.
but on the crawl, walk, run thinking, regional dispatch leads to regional what? And at the end, it's regional how far?
Well, that's left to be seen. Remember, this is enabling legislation that allows communities to opt in if they see that it's an advantage for them. And there's 7 different councils, as you saw on there.
And it's important to talk about that just to make the point. Let me just make that point for everybody so they understand what you mean by that. Cities and towns can't really do much on their own without the state legislature saying, yes, you can.
That's correct.
No matter what the change is, almost.
And I mentioned that, I think, at the
That's
press
wrong.
conference the other day, was that it could be wrong, but right now a lot of the things that, when I was a mayor, we took a lot of the low-hanging fruit that we could actually do. You got Cranston and Warwick doing senior centers. You got Johnston, you got North Providence doing street sweeping. We combined a whole bunch of communities to save millions of dollars on our health insurance. These were all administrative functions that we had under our control. But to create a new governance model that would require a new contract, like we did in Cumberland when we had 4 independent fire districts go into 1, we went down, and I went down and advocated for legislation to put a new governance model in. So that's where you are right now.
So back to the crawl, walk, run. With each success story, there'll be more enabling legislation to do X and Y. What's your vision? Give me the vision thing as to where you think this regionalization thing goes.
Well, I don't think there's any limits to it. You hear, as you say, the echo on your radio station from years past was 39 communities, 39 superintendents, 39 business managers. There's a whole bunch of things that we can do efficiently in there if we enable communities to opt in. So there's ways that, for instance, in Massachusetts, which I'm taking a very close look at, Dan. They got 68 different regionalization strategies going in the state of Massachusetts right now, and it's funded by the state in terms of the investigation, in terms of whether or not it makes sense or not. So you have tax assessors being collaborations on, you have tax collection that is going on, you have public safety measures that are going on. So the sky is the limit, and what we need to do as leaders, not only in the state of Rhode Island, but also in our communities, which we have been in our communities, but it's time for the state to step up and provide the opportunities to provide these taxpayers with the relief that they deserve.
Why do I sense that so many of your ideas and so many of the how we can improve our efficiency ideas are completely comparative to our neighbors in Massachusetts? I mean, you are in a rhythm right now, saying, "Hey, guess what? In education, Massachusetts does X. Hey, guess what? A high-performing school in Massachusetts does X. A high-performing school in Rhode Island does X minus. Massachusetts, da 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 da." And I could add one in. One I've been beating the tar out of you on for a long time is the
car tax.
Thank
and
you.
You're going to love the plan.
Now you know the two guys have been hanging around too long.
You're going to love the plan
together.
that I'm going to
fill
roll
in my
out
sentences
on property tax relief for all the taxpayers, property taxpayers in
but
the
why
state of Rhode Island,
we are
including the cars.
constantly? Why does Massachusetts seem to offer such a better model for good government and efficiency and taxpayer respect, and all we have to do is look over our nose, and we don't seem to be able to do it?
Well, I think that it goes both ways too. So I'm sure that they're looking at things that we're doing.
Like what?
Well, I don't. Nothing comes to the tip of my tongue at the moment.
So you know,
but,
don't make an extra effort to be diplomatic where the opportunity doesn't exist.
No, I think it does, because I know that I've been in company even with people on the education issues, people who had started the renovation, the revolution there in Massachusetts. Actually, look at Rhode Island and say, look, you got some good things going on here as well.
Like
what they were saying in terms of some of the things that we do on the development, professional development and other things like that. I mean, you have a Highlander Institute that's doing some high-tech things.
Oh, professional development inside education.
That's correct. The Highlander Institute actually is an example.
Maybe bail you out. Maybe they like the charter schools and the mayoral academies and that kind of thing.
I'm sure that they do.
Yeah.
But again,
you know what?
I think
it was
sharing.
tough. It was tough for you to dig in.
No,
I don't think you have to.
I'll come prepared next time.
But you don't have to deny this. I mean, I'm doubling down on a lot of what you presented, which is you've been asking a lot of folks to take a look at performance next door as at least a measurement and a model to at least try to achieve and/or compare.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah,
I mean, it's just the way it is.
Actually, one of the classmates that I went to the Kennedy School now is a rep in Massachusetts, and we're going to be visiting up there and comparing notes and taking a closer look at these things, because I think that it's important when you talk about the regionalization that we started off talking about. This is not pie in the sky. This is not a dream. You got on the Cape Cod, 13 different communities are actually doing that work together collaboratively, and Essex County is doing the same thing. And it doesn't matter where the phone call is taken from. And give me 10 seconds. I was at the state police, and they were commemorating the fallen state police over the 100-year history of the state police, and they had a 6-year-old kid there from Tiverton that had called in on behalf of their mom. Where did that call go to? It went to the 911. So you can straight these regional public safety discharge, and safety is not and the mom's life was saved. So
we'll talk about the politics of this. If you heard him early, Lieutenant Governor say there's a Senate sponsor but no House sponsor. So is it DOA? Next. Again, some of the scenes from the State House last week as the mayors got together with Lieutenant Governor talking about regional dispatch for public safety. You have a Senate sponsor, but you don't have a House sponsor, so nothing happens without the House. Let me ask the good question first. Who else is with you on this? Is the governor with you on this?
Yes.
Is the Senate President with you on this?
Well, the Senator Palmer is, and he had good sponsorship, I believe, from Senator Archambault, Senator Nesselbush, and
oh, right.
And
by the way, Teresa Pivewee does anything the governor wants her to do anyway, so that's pretty good. What's going on with Nick Maniello, Speaker of the House, and getting some traction?
At the moment, we have not been able to really lay out the argument to him. Some of the phone calls have not been answered, but what I would say...
You tell me the Speaker of the House is not responding to your request to talk about a regionalization bill?
Well, at the moment, there's been phone calls put in by our Chief of Staff, Tony Silver, into Leo Skenyon and have not been returned yet, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to be returned. There's a lot of distraction going on up there, and I don't want to be over the diplomatic, but it is true. But I would say that, as I said at the press conference, look, where there's a will, there's a way. The taxpayers deserve this, and the municipal leaders are calling for it. And if you can run through an ethics law, statute, that goes for a constitutional amendment in a short period of time, then where there's a will, there's a way. And if we want to help our taxpayers, that's what's going to happen. If you want to help Paul Valletta protect jobs at the expense of the taxpayers, then it's going to be very clear which way we go. Are we going to protect jobs, or are we going to actually protect the taxpayers who live in the state of Rhode Island?
Well, I think your commentary is right on the money when it comes to will and way. And it goes to this. The Speaker of the House holds all the cards. If he wants to get something done toot sweet, he gets something done toot sweet. If he doesn't want to get something done, it sits there and it lingers. And I have to laugh over his recent comments this week about how there's balance of power in this state. And line item veto, for instance, would be tilting the windmill for balance of power. What a joke. Are you with the line item veto? There was a hearing today on it at House Finance.
I'm 100% in the line item veto. I believe that the people in the state of Rhode Island want to continue to see balancing that's going on, and it would strengthen the governor's office in a way that 40-some-odd states in the country are strengthened.
44.
And I believe, quite frankly, it just was like the the ballot question there. What do they call that there when they had the
master lever?
The master lever. When I was asked that by some leadership in the General Assembly, I said it's just a matter of time. I think that the sale has already been made, that the public wants to see a line item veto, and it's just a matter of time when they do it. So if they don't address it this year, then they're going to address it next year, because I believe that the public has already made up its mind that they want a line item veto, and I believe that the public can drive an awful lot of change into the General Assembly and into the state of Rhode Island.
What do you think about the atmosphere right now? Mr. Gallison, with an unknown criminal issue, has to leave, the House Finance Chairman. Mr. Jackson, Majority Leader, he resigns his leadership post in the Providence City Council, but not his position, jammed up on 6 figures worth of alleged embezzlement.
It makes you sick to your stomach, because this type of behavior is something that gets the attention. Like I just said earlier, you get trumped by that behavior. Yet we got a lot of good things that we need to get done, and I could rattle that list off very, very quickly. With the fact that we don't pay for sales tax on our lights anymore. The unemployment rate is going to go down, save businesses $30 million in the state of Rhode Island. We did the thing at the PUC that helped businesses and residents save a lot of money. So there's a litany list of things that have happened both in the governor's office and out of the General Assembly. Yet this thing puts a big shadow all over the state of Rhode Island, and that's what people spend their time on. That's why your rings are ringing off the hook on those issues. So it fills up your airtime, in your work on those issues, and that's really a deterrent. So it makes you sick to your stomach. You just want to just vomit all over your shoes.
That should make the news, and so should regionalization. Easy for me to say. Thanks for coming.
Okay.
Final word when we come back. It's not often you get a public official to actually be so, I don't know, acute in terms of the reaction on corruption, but that on your shoes from the Lieutenant Governor should give you some pause, no doubt. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the radio tomorrow from 3 to 6 on WPRO, and back here tomorrow when we talk about parking meters in the city of Providence. Have a great night. Good night.